Hey, hope you're having a good day. This is Elan, and welcome back to the Holistic Health Podcast. And today I'm joined again by the amazing Finn McKenna-Fox. Finn, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good man. Thanks for having me on again. It's good to jam out.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to today because we're going to go through some different misconceptions that tend to pop up that we've both seen a lot working with hundreds of people over the last few years. So I think it's a really interesting topic to delve into. And just to give everyone an overview, we're going to kind of keep it to three main themes. So the first one is going to be looking at why you don't need to focus on just a calorie deficit, rather than looking at your macros, having to diet to lose weight versus creating a healthy relationship with your food, and then, smashing yourself with training and cardio. So we're essentially looking at food, we're looking at the relationship you have with food, and then also different things that pop up with training. So there are going to be three big themes, and we can delve into lots of different ideas when it comes to each one of those. So the first one to jump into, focusing on just calorie deficit rather than looking at your macros. I think that's a really, great idea that you had in terms of a misconception, because the amount of conversations I've had with many men and women, and the lack of knowledge out there on what a macro even is
Mm.
astounding to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
and it's one of the things like it's like with anything nutrition based now, like there's just so much conflicting information out there, so much overwhelming information of like what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Like again, it's like so many conversations that I've been having with people is like they just don't know. And they've lost that trust in themselves. So yeah, like I think it's one of the things. It's just coming back and just making it really super simple and easy for them to understand. Like I think that'll be a really good point to get from this conversation.
yeah, definitely. And like, to give a quick breakdown, macros are just macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. They're the three simplest ones to focus on. And we're essentially getting different benefits from each one. Protein, easiest way to think about it is it's going to keep us feeling full, give us energy, make sure we don't have hunger or cravings. Carbs are there to give us energy for days that we're doing a workout, swimming, cycling, whatever activity. And fats are there to also give us energy to make sure that we don't feel hungry. They're amazing for satiety and keeping away cravings, and then also for hormonal health and keeping your skin, hair, nails looking good and keeping everything working efficiently. So that's the three macros, kind of the most important things to
Yeah.
do. You don't really have to go much deeper than that. Um, have anything to add to those?
Yeah, like and it's just like as you said, like it's just keeping it super simple with it. Like, and that's one of the big things that I like to focus on with clients is like just simplifying it so much so it's easy for them to start bringing the changes into how they're eating. And like one of the first things that I get people to look at is just look at your plate, look and know, start on knowing and understanding what is a protein source, what is your fat sources, what are your carbohydrate sources. So when you look at your plate, you can ask yourself, is like, all right, does my plate have the right amounts of each of them on it? Because a lot of times it's like the carbohydrates is the easy one, but then the protein and the fats are the ones that like fats are bad, so we should avoid them. It's protein, we don't need enough protein, so just having like a big carbohydrate meal, but like it might be like low calorie. But then you're wondering why you're not feeling full after it. You wonder why you have all like it's like you're fighting cravings and stuff after. Whereas if you look at your plate and making sure you have each of them in the right amounts, like it's just the first simplest, easiest thing that you can do and to change that you can start bringing in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like something I get most women to focus on would be like, make sure you have like 30 grams of protein per meal. And if you can do that, everything else will almost fall into place. And
Yeah.
if you're a guy, then you're probably going to be looking more for about 50 grams of protein per meal. And once you kind of start off with that, it's just like, okay, well, if I do eat meat, how am I going to do that? Like one chicken breast, okay, that's going to be 20 to 25 grams. If I have a steak, that's roughly going to be the same 20 to 25 grams of protein. If I'm a vegetarian or vegan, if I have, like maybe 150 to 200 grams of tofu, then that's going to be roughly about 20, 25 grams of protein. So it's just a case of figuring out, what protein source do you like and then having the right amount of it. And then you'll get the other 5 grams of protein, maybe from if you have some potatoes with your meal as your carb source, or, you'll be able to get that extra little bit from whatever carb or fat source you have in there too. So yeah, I think just making it simple is the biggest thing, because as soon as you start to overcomplicate it, it gets too overwhelming, and then it's like, ah, can't do this. So I'm going back to my old habit. Just let's get it
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, and then like the other side of it is like so many people are we just focus on like, oh, I just need to have low calories. It's like to lose weight, I just need to focus on being in a calorie deficit, but they don't really care where the calories come from.
Yeah.
Where there's like lots of health foods out there that are low calories, but they're not actually healthy. Um, so like again, it's looking at that. It's like again, it's just bringing things back to like, yeah, no one will understand like where your calories are. Is it sitting within what you want from it? But again, it's like, does it have the protein, fats, and carbohydrates that you want to meet as well? Um, like and I think that's the big one, is just to can simplifying it as much as possible. Of that, like that's the one question that you can ask yourself every time. It's like, and that's one of the big things that I see for a lot of people, especially like when we're at home, it's easier to start bringing them things into control. But once you start eating out, if you're on the road and stuff like that, that's where it can get a bit more challenging. But it's the matter of like just keep coming back to asking yourself that question is like, right, where can I get like my protein source, my fat source, and the carbohydrate source from that? And like so it gives you more tools to be able to make the right choices that's going to support yourself and support your goals.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think a good example to think of is like, you could have, let's say on paper, you need 1,800 calories to maintain your weight. For most women, that would be like on average what it would be, right? But if you eat all of your 1,800 calories from carbs alone, you're going to have a lot of hunger, a lot of cravings. You're not going to feel satisfied. So you're going to make it really difficult for yourself to stay within how many calories your body needs. So then you're going to end up eating more, but then also having worse energy, more up and downs with your blood sugar, and then you'll just feel worse for it. Whereas if you had more protein, more fat, you had your 30 grams of protein each meal, you had maybe 15, 20 grams of fat with each meal, and then you had the rest in carbs, you won't have any hunger, won't have any cravings, you'll have stable blood sugar levels. So then throughout the day, you're just like feeling good on an even keel throughout the day, instead of this up and down and all over the place and like feeling like you need to, oh, I need to have some chocolate or some crisps or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why the macros are so important, because if you have them set up right, you're essentially going to be supporting your body and being able to feel your best
Yeah.
versus being all over the place and being like, why do I feel this way? Yeah.
And it's one of the things is like once clients start understanding this way and start eating this way, like it nearly like there's a lot of them can be like, it's like I never realized I could eat so much food. It's like I'm actually eating more food than what I was normally eating, but it's actually like it feels so much better in my body because it's more of that it's more of a balanced diet. It's more like as you said, I'm not having them cravings, I'm not having them energy crashes and stuff, but like it's actually something that gets supporting the body in a lot more of a nutritious way rather than just eating like low calorie foods because you think that's what you need to lose weight.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And then the question always pops up of like, oh, well, I shouldn't eat carbs, right? Because they're bad for me. It's like,
Yeah,
so it's too easy to look at things in black and white, because it's never really that simple. Like, no food is inherently good or bad. It's how we use it that's the issue. So I think that that's why people start placing labels on it. It's like, oh, sugar or carbs is bad for you because it makes you gain weight. But it's like it actually doesn't. It's if you're abusing carbs, same as abusing anything else, it's going to be an issue. Like if your body needs, let's say, 150 grams of carbs per day, and you train maybe 2 times per week, or maybe you just walk every day, if you eat 200, 300 grams of carbs a day, then yeah, that's gonna be too many calories for how active you are. So then your
yeah,
weight can start to go up.
yeah,
So I can see why people place a label of like, oh yeah, sugar is bad for you or carbs are bad for you, but it's like it's really not. It's just about if you're eating the right amount for how active you are, then it's not an issue at all. Because at the end of the day, carbs are just source of energy. They're
Yeah.
fuel in the tank to help you throughout the day.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, and it gets that's where it's really good at the start as you're learning this and understanding this for yourself, like have ways of starting to track what you are eating so you actually start understanding like the like as close as accurate as possible, like what does that actually look like for your example, like what does 1800 calories actually look like, what does 1800 calories actually look like when I'm having like 30 grams of protein in a meal. So like what does that actually look like on the plate, and like so doing that and building that relationship with it, so you're starting to track it like and starting to like use the likes of MyFitnessPal or something so you can actually start seeing and understanding, so that again it's just giving you more power. So then, like, it's not the matter is like you have to track for the rest of your life. It's like you're learning what it actually looks like. So you're learning how to be able to start picking that out, and having more power when you're making the choices around your food, moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's a skill the same as anything else, like we should really be taught in school from a young age. Like, here's what 10 different protein sources are, or here's where you get carbs from, or if you want to get fat, here's where
Yeah,
you get fat, the macronutrient from.
yeah.
But
But
unless
does fat not make you fat?
Oh yeah, no, of course it does. So no, don't eat any fat. But yeah, it's just like it blows my mind how that's not in the curriculum. You would specifically need to do something nutrition based in college to even get an idea of those.
Yeah,
And that's another good point as well. It's like fat, the macronutrient can't make you fat. But a lot of people think like, oh, if I eat too much fat, then yes, that will give me extra body fat. But that's not how it works. It's like if you're in a calorie surplus, you're eating too much for what your body requires, then that's how you gain body fat because you're in a surplus. So your
yeah,
body's storing energy. That's that's how we hold on to extra body fat around our stomach or legs or wherever.
yeah,
So fat in itself, the macronutrient is really important because fat literally gives you cholesterol, and cholesterol is the building blocks for hormones, and hormones are essential for energy, mood, skin, like pretty much anything you can think of. That's what fat is supporting.
yeah,
So to think like, oh, I'm not going to eat any fat because it's quote unquote bad, it's like that's a huge misconception for sure.
yeah. No, like it's so true. Like, and again, it gets going back to that point you were saying. It's like we weren't taught this in school, so it's up to us to teach ourselves now. And like it's scary like how many people in the 40s, 50s that you're like talking to and like they still don't know what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
Like what like where can I get it? What's a good protein source? What's a healthy fat source? Like what does that actually look like? So it's like, but again, it's up to us to be able to like learn this for ourselves and understand this for ourselves, because that's where we're going to start creating that healthy relationship with food, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And the one massive thing I've seen over the years has been how many people have a very distorted or unhealthy relationship with food. Like it doesn't cease to amaze me, like the amount of conversations that I have where a lot of the same themes pop up where, people are like, yeah, I basically worked with this coach before and he was like, yeah, really low fat diet, don't eat any fat. Also, you should keep your carbs very low as well. Just eat a bit of protein.
Yeah,
Um, and then from them having that approach, they begin to develop not a full eating disorder, but a very disordered way of thinking around food. It's like, oh yeah, well, I can't really eat for fats. Like let's say I can't eat avocados or I can't eat bread for carbs or I can't eat any of these foods because they're quote unquote bad. So now I have to avoid all those. So now I have basically can't have much social life because all the nice stuff I want to eat when I go out for
yeah,
dinner, that's on the bad list.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, we really need to like change that in so many ways.
And again, that's it. Like it's like like so many people, like we put so much pressure on ourselves, and like it's how we speak about food is so unhealthy with that. It's like, oh, like I slipped up at the weekend. I was like, oh, it was really bad. I was really naughty at the weekend. And you're like, really? It's like, let's look at how you can create a healthy relationship with this so you can actually enjoy food in a healthy way. So
Yeah.
it's like and again it comes down to it's like I never focus on trying to be perfect 100% of the time because it's not realistic. It's not living. And it's like if I said I was going to do that, that means I'm never having pizza again. And it's like stuff that like pizza like life's like life wouldn't be like it's pizza too good not to have it again. But it's the matter. I was like I'm not going to have it every day. I'm not going to have it every week.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's looking like it's looking and it's like if I am having something like that, it's like I'm gonna bloody well enjoy it. And I'm gonna make sure it's like when I'm having it, it's like I'm gonna make it a healthier choice. So like what I'm putting on it is going to be a healthier choice than what it is most of the time. But it's like I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna feel guilty for it because like it's not like one bad meal is gonna throw off like 5 days of eating really well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think removing the labels around it as well. It's like, we need to like stop thinking of things as like being good or bad, but instead of thinking like, okay, if I'm eating this pizza, like let's think about it logically for a second. Like let's step out of our emotional brain. 95% of the time we're thinking emotionally or, from a non-logical position. So if we take a step back and be like, okay, let's think like what macronutrients am I getting from this pizza right now? Okay, so there's definitely carbs in the base for sure. If you've got goat's cheese and caramelized onion on top, you're getting fairly well balanced between fats and proteins from the goat's cheese. From the caramelized onions and any other vegetables on it, you're going to be getting a small amount of carbs, some micronutrients. So if you look at the macronutrients of the pizza you're eating, you could probably figure out like, okay, I actually have a fairly balanced meal here with protein, carbs, fats, and we've already established that they're all important and helpful. So,
Yeah,
so why should I put a label on the pizza as being bad for me? Like,
yeah,
make any sense? It's like the 500 calories that I'm getting from this half pizza. It's like, how could that be bad in any way? It's
yeah,
like, it doesn't
yeah.
make sense. It's like,
Yeah. And plus you're probably enjoying a pizza with friends or with a partner or something as well. Like so there's just so many other positives that come from that
yeah.
experience. Like you're socializing, you're connecting, you're deepening friendship, you're deepening connection as well. Like there's all things that are really good. Whereas like people like are afraid to go out because they don't want to put themselves in that situation.
Mhm. Yeah, like life is too short not to enjoy food. Like it's one of the few pleasures that's going to be there every day of your life. Almost,
Yeah. Yeah.
to feel like you have to restrict yourself from it, it doesn't make any sense at all because
Yeah.
it'd be a miserable life, and who wants to have a miserable life?
And like it's one of the things like so it's looking at to start creating that healthier relationship around food, especially like, if you know it's like all right, there's something coming up at the weekend and I'm going to be going out to. So like I know that's coming up, so let's prepare for that and prepare myself mentally for that as well. So I actually can go and enjoy myself. Whereas a lot of times people is like, oh, like you're trying to eat well, you're trying to like follow a diet or whatever as such, and you're on a bit of a health buzz, but you know you've got a wedding coming up at the weekend. So then as it's kind of coming to Thursday, you're like, oh, this is coming up to the weekend. It's going to be a blowout. So I'm not going to make these better choices. I might skip the train on this day. Like, oh, can I have this little cake because this weekend is just going to be a write-off anyway. And then like the wedding is like on the Saturday or whatever. And like you eat whatever, you drink whatever, you do whatever. And then you wake up the next day feeling sorry for yourself. It's like, I'll start again on Monday. And then you indulge more, you have more, you do that. And then like then Monday comes, you might get back in the bandwagon or you might not. Like, and that's the thing that it's looking at. It's like that's the slippery slope that where a lot of people can fall down on. Whereas the matter of looking is like this is coming on at the weekend. I'm gonna actually be in point up until that, enjoy the heck out of myself on that, and then the next day I'm gonna wake up wake up fresh to make the right choices and start straight back again of what I want to do the next day after it, rather than letting one thing throw out a whole week or even 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's like having that distorted or unhealthy relationship with food can then lead to self-sabotage because you're thinking of like, oh, I'm on the wagon or I'm falling off the wagon. There's no there's no like middle ground. It's like I'm either fully in and fully out. Like
Yeah, yeah,
and then that leads to more procrastination or feeling bad or guilt or whatever emotions pop up, and then you're back into the negative spiral, and you're deep in the hole, and you're looking up and like I can't get out of it now. I'm too far down. So
yeah,
it can be a very like vicious cycle to get stuck
yeah,
in for sure.
yeah.
But Yeah, like when you actually start thinking about things logically, like you said about making a bit of a plan, like a very simple thing to do is like, okay, if I have a wedding at the weekend, realistically, I'm gonna have a few drinks. There's probably gonna be anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe more if you've got a strong liver. I'm a lightweight, so 2 to 4 drinks for me, I'm like, that's kind of my limit. But if you know you're going to have that surplus of calories, then you can do a bit more during the week. It's like literally as simple as like, okay, well, if I add an extra 5,000 steps Monday to Friday, that'll give me an extra 150 calories per day. So I'll have saved up maybe 750 then by Friday. So 750 calories, that's literally like a whole bottle of wine right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So making simple adjustments like that can be helpful because I'm not really a fan of like taking things out. I'm more like, how can we add positives in? So at least if you're getting out for a walk for longer that week on the build up to the wedding or whatever event, it's like now you've got more time for headspace, you've got extra steps in, maybe extra time to go for a walk with your partner or just listen to a
Yeah.
book or whatever you like to
Yeah.
do. So it's like you've got that extra positive now there that week as well as saving up some calories for the weekend.
Yeah. And again, like, and that's where it comes down to. It's just like, it's just creating that like healthy relationship with your food. So like what you're doing is like you want to be able to know that you can sustain this for a long period of time. And like that, it's again to continue on this. If it is the matter of like you are going out at the weekend and you know something's on, like it's still bringing back to what we were spoken to in point one, looking at the proteins, fats, carbs, look, knowing that proteins and fats is going to help with cravings, is going to help balance your hunger and stuff. So making sure like the day before that, like you like if it is on a Saturday afternoon you're going, it's like have a really good breakfast so you feel really nourished and full. Like and then you go to it so you're not going to be going there completely starving. So then that's when like as soon as all the treats come out, that's where you're craving and all that stuff. When the stuff do come out, it's like, all right, let's look at making like a health, like let's look at making sure I'm getting a protein source here. Same if the next day, it's like look, where can I get that good balanced meal the next day? Whereas a lot of times like feeling tired, feeling hungover, feeling sorry for yourself, that's where we can go down the comfort food route. And the comfort food route is normally very carb based, normally like lots of empty calorie based. And then like that just keeps you spinning with it and keeps you wanting more of it. So it's a matter of looking, it's like, right, where can I actually get more of that balanced nutrition back in? Because I know that's going to get my body back in balance as much as possible, as soon as possible. So then you can enjoy yourself, but then you know that you're not letting that lag on for days and days to come.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like it's such a simple thing to do. Like if you have more of your carbs later in the day, then it's going to actually make more sense because if you have more protein, more fat in the morning, that gives you more energy. And then if you have more of your carbs towards the evening, then that's actually going to help you sleep better. So then you're just structuring your day in a way that you're actually supporting yourself to have a good day. It's like it's almost like a type of unconscious self-sabotage to have lots of carbs early in the day because then you're basically starting the day off by telling your body like, oh yeah, here's this big amount of carbs that's going to throw your energy, your blood sugar levels are going to go up like this, and then you're going to have a big drop. That's why most people have that 11 o'clock slump or
Yeah,
1 o'clock in the day. They're like, oh, I'm at my desk. I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. It's like, okay, if we made that small change in the morning, then you'd be alert right now. You wouldn't be falling asleep
yeah,
because like food is so powerful. So it really makes sense to just make some adjustments based off it's just a case of figuring out what those specific foods are that you like.
yeah,
But yeah, like the thing is with creating a healthy relationship with food as well, it's a very gradual process. So I think a foundational step for many people, and I know this was my experience, was like we have to change our mindset initially to stop thinking like, okay, this is gonna solve itself in the next 4 weeks or 2 weeks or
yeah,
6 weeks. Like this is a journey you're going to be on for your entire life. So let's get rid of the instant gratification and think like, okay, how am I just gonna make this gradual change over the
yeah,
next few months and years? And
yeah,
eventually it's going to develop into a healthy relationship. There's not going to be a quick fix where you're just like, oh yeah, I'm perfect now.
yeah. And that's it. Like it is, it gets looking at the long game with it. It's like we're making these changes for like lifelong gains and like looking for that longevity aspect. And I know for that was a big one for myself is switching when I was kind of going through my own health journey. It's like switching to more looking at the longevity aspect of like how do I want to eat? How do I want to look after my body from in a more of a holistic way? Like and that was where like the gradual where it's gradually got to where it is now. Like and it's such a healthier relationship with food compared to where it was before. Whereas I would have tried stricter diets. I would have like I've been for everything from like vegan, plant-based, paleo, carnivore, like you name it. Like I've went from everything, but like it's always come back to like where it is now, and it's just like I eat fucking real food. And it's like I eat healthy, balanced food. It's like I follow the 80-20 principle for myself. Whereas like if I'm eating well 80% of the time, enjoy myself 20% of the time, I know I'm gonna get what I need, making sure as like I'm getting like my proteins, making sure I'm getting that because the days when I don't have that, I can feel my energy drops, I can feel my mood slumps, I can feel like the emotional eating wants to come in. Emotional eating is going to be more carbs, that puts you in that spiral. So then it's checking that and then coming back to the basics. And
Mhm.
like again, that hasn't happened overnight. That's a journey that I went on. But when it comes back to that, it's just like it just seems like it's just so much more livable and doable.
Yeah, definitely. And you just like brought back some memories for there. I was thinking back like when I first started training properly, like going to the gym and stuff, that was like April 2012. But um, I really had a serious like chocolate addiction pretty much. And I still do, but it's just like I have it under control. And emotional eating has always been a thing that's been an issue for me because that's been like an easy way in the past that I've been able to cope with stress or
Yeah.
different emotions like feeling depressed or feeling lonely or feeling sad or feeling happy or lots of different emotions. So I found it was actually quite difficult for me when I was like starting to track my food and make some changes with everything that I get so many cravings for chocolate and ice cream and all that kind of stuff. And it was a very gradual process of building up the willpower. But I actually found it's like it wasn't so much about building willpower. It was more so about like, okay, if I structure my food correctly with my
Yeah.
breakfast, lunch, dinner, then I actually won't get these cravings to want to eat like one of those big, massive dairy milk bars in one go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
5 minutes or eat a whole four-pack of flakes, something like that. So I thought that was interesting, and that might be a misconception for some people. It's like, oh, I just need to be disciplined and I need to have the willpower and I need to be motivated and focused to do
Yeah.
this. But
Yeah.
it's actually not really that. It's more so just if you set things up correctly, it'll flow
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. And that's it. Like it's if you're relying on willpower to eat a certain way, it's going to be a hard journey for yourself because it is like it's whereas but like if you start learning to eat like how we've been speaking, like that makes it so much easier for yourself. Like it's again it's like when you're eating the right amount of proteins, fats, and like have more of that balance with that is like it's like the cravings for all of the other stuff is going to diminish so much. So like it's like you're not like the willpower is like it's diminished because like you're not having this empty, like you're not having this big energy lull, you're not having this big crash looking for something that's gonna that's gonna give you that quick spike, that's gonna give you that quick up. And like that's the biggest thing is like with people that do have a lot of them sugar cravings, a lot of them like the unhealthy habits around food and stuff. It's by starting to eat more of a balanced way. They just see everything else just starts balancing out so much easier.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a really good book I read on it about it must have been like 6 or 7 years ago at this point, but it's called The Hungry Brain by Stefan Guyenet. And he goes into so many different aspects of why we struggle with hunger and cravings and how we can solve that. So yeah, it's like an issue that nearly every human being probably has. So this is what we're talking about is going to be super important for everyone.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like this, like everyone has hunger and cravings at some point in their life.
Yeah, true.
And it's such a simple fix as well. It's just a case of figuring out, what those specifics are for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. Like, and like, it's what the specifics are for you, because like what works for me mightn't be specifically working for yourself, Elan. Like, and what works for me right now mightn't work for me in 6 months' time.
Mhm.
But it's the knowing as I keep coming back to like, right, what are your foundations? Just kind of keep like the more you keep and checking in with yourself with that, you're having a healthy relationship. You're able to adapt as you go.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously, like food is one thing, but then like training and exercise and activity is another area, that there's so many misconceptions. And you know, I think with training, especially, it's something it's quite difficult for a quite difficult habit for a lot of people to get into because same as food, you go online and it's like, what type of training should I do? It's
Yeah,
like HIIT training, there's low intensity training, there's strength training, like kettlebells, dumbbells, do CrossFit, do all this different stuff, and it's like just too many, ideas of what to do. So that can be extremely overwhelming for a lot of people, the same way it can be with food. So it's going to be really important to focus and figure out what's going to be working best for you and your body. Because, if you're smashing yourself with training and cardio, and it's like a lot of people think they have to go to the gym every day, or I need to do something every day.
yeah,
It's like you actually don't, it's more is less with
yeah,
training. So it's a case
yeah,
of figuring out, what's going to work best for your body and
yeah,
how we can make that sustainable as well.
yeah. And again, like I feel like one of the first things that I like to speak to with clients about that is it's what do you actually enjoy? What's the thing? What is it what's your relationship like with exercise and what's the things that brings you joy? Because if you can start looking at that first and foremost, and it's like let's just get more movement up into your day, doing the things that you enjoy is going to be a big stepping stone. Because yeah, like if you absolutely hate lifting weights, it's like you're not gonna lift weights whenever a day comes when it's like, oh, I have to do this today, but I fucking hate it. It's like it's I guess good as just fall off the bandwagon pretty quick. Whereas looking is like, what are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that you enjoy pushing your body doing? And let's look at where we can bring more of that in. Like that in itself is number one big stepping stone for people to start working. So finding what exercise works for you and do more of that first.
Yeah, because I've seen it so many times where someone said to me like, yeah, so I wasn't really doing much before, maybe doing some walking, and then I just started going to the gym every day, and I ended up getting injured, and I haven't been able to do anything for the last 6 months. I was like, I wonder why you got injured.
Yeah,
Maybe it was the fact that you went from not doing any training at
yeah,
all to
yeah,
completely doing way too much, and
yeah,
your body's only going to react in one
yeah.
way.
Yeah, or like that. Like I was like, I need to go to the gym 5 days a week. I need to work out 5 days a week. It's like, how many days a week are you working out now? None. It's like, let's maybe look at 2 days first
Yeah,
and get yourself used to doing 2 days a week first. And like, let's focus on that for the next 4 weeks. And then like, once you've that built into yourself, right, let's go for 3 days. And then it's like, if you can get them 3 days, good. It's like, and like, you can do that consistently over the next 6 months. Like, that's 3 days a week that you're training consistently over 6 months. That's so much better than doing 5 days a week for 2 weeks, then it being too much and then absolutely doing nothing, getting injured, or just saying it's too much, thrown in the towel and not doing it. And then 6 months later, looking back, I was like, oh, I had a good spell for 2 weeks.
yeah.
It's like it's playing the long game. It's like just where can you just add something in that's not going to be too far away from what it is that you're already doing, but it's going to be enough to make some changes and just build that muscle of consistency with that. And then just from there, let's look at like adding something else from that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I try and think over like if you look at the course of a year, just imagine like a calendar, there's 52 weeks. If you even just did one session per week for 45 minutes, by the end of the year, you've got 52 sessions. Whereas, like you said, if you do like 5 sessions a week for 4 weeks, get burnt out, get fed up, and then do nothing for the rest of the year, you've done 20 sessions in that 1 month.
Yeah,
Which, like, it's so easy to do one session a week, and you
yeah,
52 now over a year. Like, that's amazing.
yeah,
I think an easy way to think of it is like if you do just one session a week, you will pretty much maintain most of your strength, fitness, flexibility wherever you're at.
yeah,
If you do two per week, you're gonna make substantial progress if you do two full body
yeah,
workouts a week. If you did three per week, that tends to be the sweet spot for most people where it's like you'll make a ton of progress. You'll get fitter, stronger, more flexible, leaner. You'll gain a bit of muscle. Your shape is going to change. You're going to feel better in your clothes. Your cardio
Yeah.
will improve. You're going to
Yeah.
have more energy. You'll be able to pick your kids up without even thinking about it. You're going to
Yeah.
bend over and pick something up off the ground without being like, oh, my back's in bits. Or, like you won't feel
Yeah.
like a rock, basically.
Yeah.
It's, so it's very simple then, because like some weeks you're going to have weeks where you're super busy. You might only get one session done.
Yeah.
So some people might be like, oh, I did one session like that. I failed this week, so I should
Yeah.
probably give up. But it's like, well, if you did one session, you've maintained. So like that's not a bad thing, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's going to be so many ups and downs within a year. And if you do one some weeks, if you do two other weeks, three other weeks, but then look at the year and how many total sessions you've done, then that's going to be a huge win. And you'll be much further on than if you did nothing.
Yeah, nah, so true. Like, and again, like it's for people to look at the long-term game with it rather than that quick. Like, it's not just a quick turnaround. It's not a quick fix. It's looking playing a long game with it and looking for that longevity. Like, because that's where the real change happens. And like even like it's like I had like one of the new clients started there the other week and like we're just talking about like where she is and what she wants to do and like one of her things was focusing on trying to get up to like the eight to 10,000 steps a day. And she was like, oh, I just don't know how I'm going to do that. I was like, how many steps would you feel like you're doing at the moment? She says like, I'd be lucky if I get 2,000 steps a day. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, forget about the 8,000 steps. Let's look at getting that up to 4 to 5,000 steps. And if you can get that up to 4 to 5,000 steps a day consistently every day, it's like you're already two, three times better than what you were before. And
Yeah.
again, and it's just like soon as that happened, it was just like, oh, that's actually so much more easy, so much more achievable and manageable. It's like, let's go to do that. And
Yeah.
again, as you said, it's like some days you'll smash that, some days you'll get a little bit lower, but like an average, it's gotta like you're bringing yourself up to that next level of what it is that you want to do.
Yeah. Because even if you go from 2 to 4,000 steps average, it's 100% increase.
Yeah,
So that's a huge increase.
yeah,
So I think there's so many things that are common out there. Everyone's like, oh, you have to do 10,000 steps per day. But then that's when, the customization comes into it, figuring out like, well, you're different to most other people.
yeah.
So like if someone is unemployed and they're like, oh, I do 10,000 steps every day, it's like, okay, it's pretty easy for them if they're unemployed, right? They've got
Yeah,
lots of time.
yeah,
But you have three kids, you work full time, you've got other responsibilities going on. Like you might have the time to do that. You might have time Monday to Friday to do 4,000, 5,000 if you're walking to and from work or whatever. And then maybe it's on the weekend that you have time to go for a walk on the beach or go for a hike or
yeah,
something. So, just because you can't hit numbers that other people have said,
yeah.
you can't get results. It's just a case of figuring out what we
What
need.
works for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And talk to me then with regards to exercise then, like you're saying like the three workouts a week, is that sweet spot for yourself? Like what should that look like? What do you feel like would be a good recommendation? Is that 3 days of breaking your bollocks in the treadmill running, or is it 3 days of strength training, or like 3 days of yoga? What do you feel like what's a good recommendation for people to look at?
Yeah, three days of handstand push-ups, probably.
Max effort.
Yeah. But no, seriously, like most people, if they do a full body workout 3 times per week, even for 30 minutes, because at this point, I've worked with over 400 women over the last 7 years, and we've always done, especially over the last 4 years, we've done 30 to 45-minute classes. So if you can get a full body session done in 30 to 45 minutes, 3 times per week, you have 5 to 10 minutes of stretching, uh, 25 to 35 minutes of, let's say, a full body workout could literally just be lunges, modified push-ups, overhead press, calf raises, maybe some ab work, maybe 3 or 4 rounds of that. And then maybe a little bit of stretching at the end or a little bit of meditation or something like that. You have a very simple plan like that. You can make so much progress. And then it's just a case of progressing that gradually.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't have to be an hour long session, doesn't have to be an hour and a half. It just has to be 30 to 45 minutes where there's no messing around. It's like, okay, we have the specific structure and we're just going stretching, go through these, different exercises, and you're done. That's
Yeah.
it. Move
Yeah.
on. If you're feeling really ambitious, you might have a cold shower afterwards. But it's literally as simple as that. And I suppose the issue for many people is like, okay, within a workout, maybe I have like tore the cartilage in my knee, or my rotator cuff has been giving me issues, or one lady that, you've been working with a lot, she had an Achilles issue. And over the last 4 months, you've managed to get her to the point where she doesn't have that issue now, so she
Yeah.
can go back to running. So that's where it can be a little bit challenging for some people. It's like if you do it yourself, then you can run into issues because if you don't have years of experience with knowing specifically what movements to do and how to rehab issues, then that can make the whole, journey a lot more difficult
Yeah.
for sure.
And like again, that's it. Like it's looking at that whole element of it's working with your body and doing the things that is going to be supporting your body, is going to be challenging for yourself, but it's not breaking yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like with certain exercises, they're just not going to work for your body. Like I used to do lots of squats with a bar on my back, and like I got really strong at it as well. I got up to literally doing like 140 kilos for a set of eight, 175 for one. So the strength wasn't an issue, but I was just being an idiot because I was constantly ignoring my knee where I tore the cartilage and being in pain the whole time. And then after about 4 or 5 years, I was like, okay, I actually need to stop this because my knee feels like it's about to explode or really,
Yeah.
really bad. So then as soon as I started listening to my body and doing, I started doing Bulgarian split squats instead of squats with a bar on my back. It's like, oh yeah, I have no knee pain now, but I'm able to get stronger and
Yeah.
like feel good and everything. So it can be just a very simple switch like that from one exercise to another. That could be the thing that makes a massive difference for you, you know. Um, so that's exactly why when we're working with any new clients, we always do a movement analysis session where we'll go through every muscle group and we'll figure out what works for you because
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't do that with you, that's a type of negligence for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I think the last one to kind of talk about with regards to exercise, I feel would be is like the whole cardio side of things. Do I need to smash myself running to try to lose weight?
Yeah, so like the thing is, if you don't enjoy running, it makes no sense to be like, oh, I have to run because at the end of the day, it's just a type of cardio. And cardio in itself is great for many things. If your blood pressure is high, your resting heart rate is high, if you just want to have more energy, you want to feel fitter, doing cardio is really important. But to get in really good shape, you don't have to do that much cardio because when it comes to getting leaner, feeling stronger, looking different in your clothes, the only way you're going to do that is by changing your body composition. So you need to do a type of training that's going to help you to gain a little bit of muscle, lose some body fat. And the only way to do that really is doing some type of strength training or, that workout example that I gave there and gradually increasing, the difficulty as you get stronger. So no, you don't have to do lots of cardio. You can be in amazing shape without doing it, but doing a little bit is still important. But it would be like you'll get enough pretty much from the walking you're doing, or if you just added in a little bit of swimming or some cycling, just making sure you're getting your heart rate up to like around 130, in zone two, something like that.
Yeah.
So, unless you're planning on being an elite level athlete or you're someone who wants to run a marathon or has a very specific cardio goal, then
Yeah.
you don't have to do lots of cardio.
Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, nothing else to add on that one.
Yeah, so a few of the other kind of just different misconceptions I wrote out earlier, I thought would be one of them would be really good to go through. In terms of longevity. So a lot of ladies that I've worked with, maybe in like their 50s or in their early 60s, they're not really sure about strength training and stuff like that. Because there's not really much information out there about, like menopause and stuff like that. And a lot of women actually don't realize like when you hit menopause, within the first 5 years, um, the majority of women can lose up to 10% of their bone mineral density. And that's what can be a risk factor then for osteopenia in their late 50s, early 60s. And then that can lead to osteoporosis. And I've worked with a good few women who have osteopenia already. Um, and one of the things that, if you listen to any endocrinologists who know a lot about female health, especially, the one main thing they all recommend is to do some type of strength training
Yeah.
because if you do that in your 30s and your 40s before you enter menopause, you can massively reduce the chances of having osteopenia or osteoporosis. Or if
Mm.
you do get them, you're going to have a much higher quality of life. Because the other thing that tends to pop up as well is like people who have worse balance as they get older, that can be one of the biggest risk factors for issues because if you've really bad balance, then you're
Yeah.
more likely to fall over.
Yeah.
And how many people do we know of who has a granny who fell over and broke a hip or,
Yeah.
been really
Yeah.
unfortunate like that happened. And as soon as that happens in your late 60s or early 70s, obviously your recovery is never as good. So it's like your retirement basically is almost going down the drain because those years you wanted to do fun things or have time with your family or whatever, now you're stuck because you have a broken hip, you need to get surgery and all these different things that pop up. So obviously we're not there yet. I'm almost 30.
Yeah.
What age are you, Finn?
36.
Actually,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
36.
I was gonna say 30 at least, you've
Yeah.
got the of youth,
I
but
do have three kids.
that'll add some
Like
years on.
I would have had to start young to have at them at 30, but yeah.
Yeah. But it's just like, when, I think even if you're in your 40s, you're not really thinking about like, oh, what's my life going to look like when I'm 60 or 70? But it's like when you have that long-term mindset now of like ingraining these habits of getting stronger and stuff like that's going to pay huge dividends for quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like all you have to do is look at people who maybe have been active in the past. Like my granddad, for example, he used to train a lot, like gymnastics, running, cycling, always very, very active. And he survived two strokes
Yeah.
and he's still walking around and he can still do things in the garden and he's in his early 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas you can be almost guaranteed if he had been just a couch potato, he probably would have been gone on the first stroke,
Yeah.
but miraculously recovered from both of those.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for, what we're doing now in terms of habits is going to have a huge effect. Um, so there was one other thing as well I want to mention. So when it comes to like menstrual cycle, like it may be a surprise or not if you've listened to a lot of the stuff that I've talked about before, but it's something that's really important to consider. So a lot of women that we work with, we openly come up with a plan around their cycle to make sure you're working in sync with your body, not against it. And a lot of our female clients have reported back that when they do some light training during the second half of their cycle, either before or during their period, it can actually alleviate a lot of PMS symptoms or help with things like low energy, low mood, things like that. So I think that's a misconception too, that some women think like, okay, I shouldn't do anything at all, in the second half of my cycle or
Yeah.
things like that. But the feedback that I've got from many women has been very positive, and it's literally just an easy session as well. It could be just stretching for 15 minutes or a workout, but you use very light weights or
Yeah. Yeah. Just scale it back from what you normally do.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, that's all I really have to add to it. Anything else you wanted to touch on for today?
No, I think that's we covered stacks, loads and heaps, I think. Like yeah, like there's a lot to take in there for people. So it is like I think the biggest thing it is just coming back to just the simplicity of what it is that we're doing and looking at that, looking for that long term, like what is the things that I want to do that's going to create long term habits. It's not looking for that quick fix because if it is a quick fix, more than likely it's not going to be sustainable and yeah, it's not going to be optimal for yourself.
Amazing. Good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I hope it was helpful for anyone who's listening. And, this will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Audible. It's on a few different podcast platforms. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything or you'd like us to go through any topics in particular, just drop a comment down below and we'd be more than happy to go through it. And yeah, it was great to chat again. So I'll see you soon, Finn.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Take care.